Hey folks, welcome back to the Tampa, Florida Living channel. We've got another awesome podcast for you today. We're going live, and I've got no one better than Philly G from my team, and we have Brian Marks, the man, the myth, the legend, one of our local go-to mortgage reps. But he's made a name for himself not only because he's there for his clients, but because he's there for us, right? He took time out of his schedule. I want to grow up to be him. He's in the Keys right now. Literally had to go out to the porch because he's got a house full of people to be able to join us. So, Brian, thank you for that, and I hope that was a good enough entrance.
I love it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, bringing that energy early in the morning. So again, appreciate you coming on. We do have a few folks joining us, so that's awesome. Guys, the title for today, or the topic for today, is the truth about real estate. It's like, what's going on? We're not sugarcoating it too much for you. We're going to talk about price drops going on right now. We're going to talk about the inventory, what's going on with that in the market. And then, as always, I like to pull out our crystal ball and kind of just start talking about what we see coming. And I say crystal ball because it's never a perfect science. Folks, I do see a bunch of you starting to jump on, which is awesome at 9 a.m. Maybe that's a special time. Do me a favor, if you guys have any questions while we're doing this, it's live, drop them in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love that interaction. But let's get things going. Phil, good morning, bud.
Good morning. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, how to get you in there.
2 in a row.
For those of you that don't know Phil's a realtor on my team. And so we're bringing a little bit of everybody's perspective and what we're feeling at the street level. So, Brian, let's talk about price drops and the inventory. I got to kind of squeeze them both in. And I just want to share my screen for a second just to give kind of like a prelude, like kind of just what we're seeing. I pulled these stats from the MLS directly. This is over the last 1 year. And let me see if I can zoom in here for you guys. Where are we at? Here we go. There we go. So this is for the last year. This is Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater. And as you're looking at this, the green lines are the active listings and the blue lines are the sales price, right? So a lot of people right now are like, hey, a lot of inventory coming on the market, which we do, tell people yes. And then, and then the blue line, they're like, hey, prices are dropping, get ready for the end, right? And there's yeses and nos on that too. But as you can see here, you can see inventory. We've had extremely low inventory way back in September of last year. And then as you go, you can see it's starting to climb. And last month, July, we just got on here a few weeks back, Brian, and we were talking about how much inventory is hitting the market. And we're not lying. There's a ton, and we're feeling it. But I have started to see a little bit of a downtick, or maybe even, but not enough sway. So we just have a good amount of inventory, about 4 months worth of inventory. And you're starting to see a little bit of a decline on prices. So I want to give that overall picture. I want to talk about that today. So let's get you guys back here. All right. Playing producer too. So what are you guys feeling? Let's give that overall. Brian, what do mortgages look like coming in? Are you seeing those applications? Are you seeing people pull back?
I mean, I'll tell you what I'm seeing on a micro level, obviously, from my point of view, broader feel in the market as well. We're super busy right now. Very busy. It's been a steady increase since I would probably say about June of this year.
Are you specifically talking about applications?
More people purchasing contracts. So the biggest thing to keep in mind, we need inventory in order to sell homes and to get people homes. We need inventory. More inventory is a good thing. Not too much, but more inventory is a good thing. Since about June, every single month has been a gradual increase in more people going under contract, more people closing, because they have more homes to choose from. We've had people that have been looking for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, can't find anything, especially if people that are very specific and they're saying, hey, Brian, I want to be in this one specific area, one neighborhood or two neighborhoods, and that's it. And before there was maybe 1 or 2 homes coming on the market in a year in those neighborhoods. Now you've got more homes coming on the market. The people have more options. So they're actually finally starting to purchase. Those people that were waiting for a while, they're finally starting to purchase. Combine that with, we've definitely seen a drop in interest rates. If you've got great credit, I mean, right now, mid sixes is a good range that we're seeing people attain right now. So payments are more affordable. People are going under contract more. We have noticed a little bit of a slowdown in new applications, so new people applying. It's not uncommon. I would say let's look at it again probably next month, because August statistically is usually the slowest month of the year for new business. And I would attribute that more towards the kids are going back to school. People did their last minute vacations.
Yep.
They're not trying to buy a home and move their kids when their kids just started school 2 weeks ago.
Yep. Yeah, there's a little bit of a tick down, and then it kind of starts to pick back up again.
In September, as soon as we get through Labor Day, it's like the faucet just turns back on.
Here we go. Yeah.
And I would like to add to that, Brian, because I agree. Obviously, I'm out more in the streets, right? Showing a lot of homes. I'm looking through this as a realtor lens. Back 3 months ago, we're talking my true goal, right, is to find the area of where these people want to live, right? Where my clients want to live. And, we were going and doing showings, and there might be only 2 or 3 different homes that I can show them that hit their match. Now, when I'm going on the road, I have 6 or 7 different homes that I can show them that match. So now they're getting more of a variety. They're getting more of a choice. And we're actually being able to check more of those boxes, what they're looking for, than in the last few months.
They're not sacrificing too. They're not sacrificing on what they want. If they said, hey, Phil, I really want a 4-bedroom, something pops up and they're like, you know what? I probably could do a 3-bedroom, but it's not the perfect match for them.
Right.
Now they're starting to get exactly what they're looking for.
They have more boxes checked now, which is awesome. It's been good for me.
And people on my side, when I call them and congratulate them on going under contract, I don't know if it's just me, but they seem.
Whoop! You froze for a minute there.
Froze.
That's the key. That's the Key West Wi-Fi for you. Hey, Brian, you froze.
Especially those people that have been. Oh, sorry. Especially those people that have been looking for a year.
Hey,
they're
Brian,
over the moon.
You froze for us, man. You said whenever you find people getting under contract, and then it froze.
Oh, when first thing I do, call them, congratulate them. They seem more excited, happier, because they're getting exactly what they look like or what they've been looking for, especially if they've been looking for a year. And now they're saying, yes, we finally got the one.
Yep. So, folks, any of you, we got a bunch of you on here, and I love that. If you guys have any questions, concerns, anything you want to ask, drop it in the comments, and we'd be happy to answer for you live right here. We've got Brian Marks, mortgage, our local mortgage lender, and then we've got Phil, manager of my team, and he's with us today. So, folks, the reason why we created this, I normally don't like to do market updates, but every maybe quarter or so. But, this all kind of stemmed from a conversation that Phil and I were having the other day. And it's like, man, what are you feeling? I always like to keep my finger on the pulse. And it's like, what are you feeling with our buyers? What are they saying? What are you seeing out there as we're making contracts or trying to write contracts? And then really, what's going on with our listings, and how are we having those conversations with our actual homes that we have on the market right now for sale as a team? And that's where everything really stemmed from. So, Phil, tell me a little bit about what you're feeling on the realtor side, really from our listings, because that's kind of where the conversation, I think, started, right? It's like,
right.
There was a big shift that happened about 45 days ago in my mind.
Big. And you know what? It's something that I put a tab on. I still felt, depending on the area, right? All comes to the area. So if the area, there was a lot of inventory, some of the buyers have almost shifted more to new construction because it makes more sense to buy a new construction home right now. And so our listings in those areas just haven't been getting the volume that you would, almost expect. But I've seen also in areas where there wasn't a lot of new construction and the property was either unique or there just wasn't a lot available in that area, we were getting a lot more volume in those homes. And sometimes those areas weren't as sought out as where the new construction zones were. So that's where I've noticed, because we have listings in obviously all over Tampa. So I really just think it's really depending upon the area is making the outcome of how fast the house is moving or how much action you're getting.
So on the listing side, it was almost like we could list a house and within 2-3 weeks got an offer, we marketed it right and everything else, even sometimes a week. Now you're getting that same house and it's probably taking a few more weeks to get that action, or we have to maybe start to dive into it and say, hey, realtors, give us feedback. How's the price? How's this? How's that? But what we felt, right? That's where it all came from. What we felt, that instant shift was, you have an open house, there was 10 people walking in, now there's 1 or 2. And it's like, wait a minute, let's do that open house next week. Maybe there was a festival or something, and you get the same result. So now it's like, okay,
two open houses too. We've done that.
Yeah, so things really just slowed down. There's no magic pill that you can tell your seller, right? It's things slowed down because, and I instantly went to the data, and the data said, well, our inventory almost doubled overnight back in June, July. So what we are feeling, right, is that things have slowed down, but I don't want to, what I hear from a lot of people is doomsday, right? Doomsday channel, where it's like everything's crashing and everything's a nightmare. That's not what it is. It's like, hey, sellers, I just want to take you back to 2018 for a moment, 2019, but pre-COVID. This was our normal market. I mean, minus interest rate and minus the prices where they're at, but everything else was exactly the same. But Phil, to your point, I love that you brought that out. We've been suffering within the city limits, like these older homes, right? You're talking 10 minutes from the city or things like that. Those older homes, those 1970s, 1980s that make up much of what the city has, didn't have that same inventory. So now that we do have a listing there, it's like, boom, a lot of eyes on it, great price range, it starts to go. So I'm going to push the pause button there. We got a couple comments coming in. I just want to address it. Thomas, appreciate you guys doing this. Market sounds healthy. This YouTube channel, Reventure guys, keep saying Tampa is going to crash and burn 50%, freaking everyone out. But you guys are on the front lines. Yeah, man, that's definitely a popular channel. And that's what I would call a doomsday channel. You always have more people that like the negativity than you do the positivity. So whenever you have that market's crashing, everything's going to hell, it's really easy to click on. And they're not wrong until they're basically proven right, and they could ride that wave for 3 or 4 years until whenever the next crash is. So it's really easy to do a negative channel. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I've been watching those videos just because I wanted to see that angle, and I go back,
Tom.
and I go back 5-6 years, and they're saying the same thing. So
yeah,
isn't
and that's what I really like.
Michael Burry's been doing the same thing ever since he called the 08 crash, and every single year since then he's been saying it. This is the year for the crash, and it hasn't come.
Yeah, every cycle of real estate, there's no doubt there's cycles in real estate, right? And everything, but they're not all the same. If you look back, a crash or a pullback, a recession, I'm sorry, better to say that, is typically at flat lines. It's a plateau. And I remember this because 10 years ago, I was working in, Keller Williams' office or whatever. And one of the old timers who's been through 3 recessions, has been in real estate 40 years, used to tell me, hey man, don't stress it all the time. It's one of those things where it usually flatlines. Real estate's not supposed to go up 10% a year. It's supposed to go up 1 to 3, 1 to 4. And I feel like that's what we're gravitating back towards, If we saw a 2% pullback, 3%, 4% pullback, it's not the end of the world. It's probably healthy. If we also saw a 2 or 3% gain, healthy. So it's going to probably be in that range, okay? Jeff, I appreciate that comment. Charlie's mom, hey guys, are the majority of your properties in an HOA? No, they're not necessarily. What I will say is a lot of our master plan communities that are easier to show you guys because they're on the outskirts and the suburbs, typically our suburban life is in a master plan setup, but 95% of the city does not have an HOA at all. Okay. Hey Jess, how you doing? Said I'm planning to refinance. When do you think about I'm going to combine those two. Interest rates are going down. So I guess that's going to we're going to answer that with a little bit of a story, if you don't mind, Jess. And that's definitely a Brian Marks scenario since he's the mortgage dude. Brian, you were telling me a story right before this about some of your clients, and I love the story form of it. Can you tell us when you think, not just interest rates are going down, but start with what your story is, what a lot of people are thinking, and then give us that answer, what you think.
Sure. I've talked to a couple clients even within the last week, and they are very confident in what they say. And they basically have said that come December 1st, the real estate market is going to crash. The stock market is going to crash, and interest rates are getting lowered on this day. And my response to that is, well, that's, very interesting, because some of the smartest economists in the world are coming out and saying they have no idea at this point.
Yep.
What Harvard MBA economists that are the most educated people in the world, even, the Fed chairman's advisors are saying that they don't know. Everything's going to be data dependent. So for you to make a blanket statement like that is, without actually analyzing the factors, is very tough. So we really just try to educate people. In terms of when interest rates go down, your guess is as good as mine at the end of the day.
Gambling.
Ever since the Fed started hiking rates, their story has not changed. Ever since they potentially have started cutting rates, their story has not changed. They have said specifically, at this time, we do not have enough data. It will be data dependent. When we can cut, and when the data says we can cut, we will cut at that point.
What are they looking for when you say the data dependent, or what are they? You know what I mean? What do you think of some of the markets?
Unemployment levels to be elevated, weakening in the economy. Really, unemployment is going to be a big factor. If we hit 4.5%, 5%, that's going to be a telltale sign that we've been too restrictive on our policy. At that point, we need to cut to basically right size the economy.
And I think you said this to me a long time ago, but isn't a big factor of that is also that they're in a way trying to curb consumer spending.
Mm-hmm.
Consumer spending's way out of control. People's debt way up. All this stuff, and it's like the big picture. They're just like, I'm just gonna buy cars and this and that, and everything went up, and they're just like, they're like, well,
easiest
if
way
still spending, then the demand is still there.
The easiest way to define inflation in layman's terms is it's too many dollars chasing too few of products. So what happens with that? There's not enough products. People can charge the moon for them. At the same time, when debt was super cheap, you can finance a $100,000 car at 2% interest, and your payment was nothing. So they raise the rates to lower the demand, which eventually starts to help prices.
Yep.
And Adam, more on and touch on that from the real estate perspective, right? As those interest rates start to come down, right? Where do you feel what happens with the market as they're coming down? Does it start to bring real estate down for a while? And then as those rates are down, it also has to have more of demand too at the same time, right? So as the rates are coming down, demand's also going to start to come up. So
supply and demand are inverse a lot of times. Not all the time, but a lot of times they are. So it's a roller coaster, man. It's gonna go up, down until we find that. It's always trying to search for balance, but it never stays balanced. So you got to remember that.
I have an interesting stat for you on that, Phil, if I could chime in real quick. I went through our pipeline the other day. And a lot of people are waiting until interest rates come down, which is what everyone's doing. What do you think is going to happen? It's going to flood the market. It's going to be very competitive. We have 202 people pre-approved that have said they're waiting for the rates to come down before they buy.
Right.
Just myself, 202.
Yep.
And I think what happens there is, right, you might have that temporary pullback, prices might come down a little bit, but eventually when it hits that threshold, you're going to see a whole new flood, all 202 of those people back into the market again.
Then remember the stat we've been talking about, Adam and I have been talking about for 8 months, ever since the stat came out from CoreLogic, which is a massive data company. For every 1% drop in mortgage interest rates, 5 million more people become eligible to buy across the U.S.
Right. And then you'll start to see that supply now, right? Like if you had a $450,000 house, the rate comes down. Now that could be another buyer that could be approved to buy that home. So
exactly.
Yeah. So folks, any of you guys watching, I'm just taking a minute to plug this in. Any of you folks watching, if you do have questions, just like Thomas, Charlie, Jess, that we just answered, please throw your comments or your questions in the comment section. I never get that right. And we're happy to answer them live for you right now. Otherwise, we're just going to kind of keep cruising along. And folks, if you are watching this live or even watching this on the replay, towards the end here, just probably 10 minutes away, I want to talk about what we think is coming, right? I want to give you my projection. I always love doing that with Brian. I'd love to say that I can never say anybody's spot on. Nobody's that good consistently. Sometimes you're right. Doesn't mean everybody's spot on, but it is always a guide. And I do feel like we are going in the right direction every time we say, hey, this is what we can look forward to. It helps you plan. It helps you think about, everybody has a unique situation. So it helps them kind of figure out what's the next best step for them, right? We have people calling us all the time, Phil, and they're telling us, hey, it's a great time to buy. It's a great time to sell. What should I do? And it's like we got to hear your situation because everything is unique.
Absolutely.
What I will say though is next is we talked about price. We talked about inventory. Why are we seeing price drops, Phil? A lot of people are saying price drops. I know this is kind of in line with what we've already talked about, but when people say price drops, you're going to probably see that on ReVenture or any of those other YouTubes, right? Mm-hmm. It's just like, oh my God, price drops. Does that mean everything's completely going under? Or what are we seeing at our level?
Also too, I think there's a lot of testing going on in the market because, obviously we're here talking about this today because the market has changed early in the year, right? So when we look to put a listing price on a home, we're pulling old school real estate, right? 180-day comps. It was a different market back then, right? So you're almost going to test those higher levels out first and kind of see, what type of action and what type of demand you're going to get on that. And then maybe you're going to slowly lower yourself back down. So I also think there's a lot of price testing going on at the same time because it's just moved so fast recently. We can't put that exact number of value on that home right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was about a 45-day shift, as we mentioned earlier, right? 45 days ago, you put a house on the market 3 weeks or under, we're solid. Now we hit 3 weeks and we're like, uh-oh, what's going on? And then we kind of look at all the data and we start reading it as we go. And then our advice to our clients, and a lot of them feel like, man, we missed the boat. It's like, well, you didn't miss the boat. Remember, real estate changes all the time. In 3 months from now, it will look different than it does today from probably a different angle. It could be drastic. It could be a minor change, but it will be a little bit different than today. So those conversations we are having with our clients we're basically giving them two options. It's price. Lower. There's always a price based on the demand and supply. There's always a price something will sell at, right? It's what somebody's willing to pay. So you can lower the price, or if you have the time, let's stay on the market and see what we can do, right? Let's see what comes to the door. I feel like these interest rates are creeping down from what we've seen lately. And just because we work with a lot of buyers, we know what that feels like. It's a little bit of timing. Like Brian mentioned, we just hit schools. So things kind of hit that weird slowdown. We just had a lot of inventory come on the market. If I was a buyer right now, I'm in a little bit of heaven, compared to what I was a year ago or 2 years ago. This is beautiful with all this inventory everywhere. I've got homes I can choose from. And to be honest, Phil, you're starting to see it a little bit. People if they're sitting on the market, these sellers are getting a little antsy. Maybe they don't have good direction and saying, hey, it might take a little bit longer now.
Negotiation.
You can negotiate. Not every seller is mentally prepared to negotiate, or maybe they're not in a situation. But from a buyer's perspective, we've been winning for a lot of our clients, taking stabs,
Well, they don't have as many offers anymore, right? So it's like, before, months ago, we were competing with 2-3 other people. And it was almost bring your best offer. Now it's like, all right, let's start, respectively. But then, we can kind of climb up a little bit and we wind up meeting in the middle. So, it's definitely negotiations for me have definitely gone a lot. And, I love to negotiate. So.
Oh, dude, you're like the Mr. King of negotiating.
Yeah.
But that's all good. What I want to show here is, again, if we're looking at just numbers, right? Median sales price. This is showing last year to this year. This is June. I don't have the update for July yet, but 425 is this year versus last year, 415. We're up 2.4%. Sounds pretty healthy. Will that decline a little bit? It could, but we're 10 grand above where we were last year this same time with a little bit of an influx of inventory. So I guess my point for showing that is, are prices dropping? Yeah. Are values dropping? Not yet. That's a big difference. Pricing is just testing how much you can get for the house. But if somebody's not willing to pay, 5-10% over anymore, well, that's a good thing. Now we've got a little bit more of a balanced market on both sides. So, folks, we are going to give you our thoughts on the market coming up here shortly. I got a few more things, questions here from some folks, comments. Guys, drop your comments or questions in the comments, and we are happy to answer them live here. As of right now, I'm 17, thinking about moving to the Tampa Bay area. Man, you can't buy a house yet. Things close to the beach and also fun, but I have heard mixed feelings. Man, Tampa's a great place. It's not for everybody. I'm actually shooting a video on that right now, but very family oriented. Single folks, professionals, retirees. What I love about Tampa, it's the most well-balanced city in all of Florida, probably. And I think just about anybody, if you're open to it, can have a great time here. Have you all noticed if insurance impacting housing prices? I've been hearing that there's an insurance issue going on in Florida as a whole. Insurance companies leaving, rates are shooting up. Yeah, that's kind of like last year news in a way. I mean, are we still dealing with it? Yes, Daryl. What I will say is that insurance spiked last year, right? And I say spiked, meaning from what I saw personally, they hit their peak. A bunch of companies left for multiple reasons, housing, like roofing fraud, as well as a nice big old hurricane that hit us last year. and insurance companies took off. Well, since then, we've had 8, 9, 10 big companies re-enter the Florida market and assist, and we've also had changes there. So I actually saw my insurance come down about 20% from last year's peak, and that's at a personal level.
Mine's gone down about that same amount as well, Adam.
Yeah. The other thing is,
and I'm in a flood zone, so I've actually have came up a little bit. So I think it's also where your property is located too. You're closer to water, you're further out in the suburbs. That plays a role as well.
And I like to tell people that, man, it's not just because you're close to water. I live right off the river, man, and I'm not in a flood zone. So it's elevation of your property as well. What I will say is something with insurance. A lot of times, Phil mentioned it earlier, a lot of people are kind of gravitating towards new construction for some of these reasons. But new construction, their insurance is like half, probably a third of what you'll pay with a 1970s home in the city. And a lot of times with utility bills as well. So, it's just kind of location versus what you get. You got to kind of go through it all and see what's best for your lifestyle. No one size answer fits all. And then Hector, planning on moving from Massachusetts to the Tampa area, but I don't know what to do first. I owe a duplex at the moment. What do you guys recommend? I'm looking for a house in the 190 to 230 range. Buddy, here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to go back to the old price range here. Median sales price in Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater is $425. Okay. Median, that means the middle range. You get all of the mansions and you get all of the single story or single bedroom homes. It's $425. Reason I'm showing you that is to, not say anything about your budget. Can you find something at 190 to 230? Yeah. It's going to be well off of your 4-bedroom or 3-bedroom home that's decked out. It'll be on the lower end, maybe a small condo, maybe in a lesser, favorited area, things like that. Can you find it? Yes. Are you going to get maybe what you want? I don't know. Reach out to us so we could do a search for you and see what pops up. That's the best thing I got for you. But it's well under our median price range at this point. So there's going to be slim pickings. Do you have and your team have experience working with veterans and 100% total and permanent disability property tax exemptions? Absolutely. We work with VA all the time. And yes, that's a big bonus, not paying those tax exemptions. Brian, what do you think? I'm sure you love VA.
So we love VA, especially obviously with McDill. So we work with a lot of veterans. We specialize in VA. The thing to consider, so if you're 100% disabled, you are exempt from the property taxes, not exempt from all of them. So keep in mind, you're exempt from your ad valorem taxes, not your non-ad valorem. So if you have a CDD or something like that that's non-ad valorem, you're still going to pay those.
Yeah. So for folks that don't know, a lot of times in an HOA community, especially those ones with all the big pools and resort pools and bells and whistles, parks, playgrounds, all that. Sometimes you have a CDD fee, and that you would not be exempt from. So yeah, thank you. I'm going to let this roll for about 5 more minutes or so. If you guys have any questions, please drop them in the comments. Love to answer them live here. Brian, while we're waiting for that to go, and again, in about 5 minutes, we'll give our what's coming, our prediction. Give me another good story, man. You're loaded with stories in the mortgage end of what people think or what people's experiences are. Do you have any other in your back pocket for me?
Ooh, I mean, I've got thousands of them throughout time. What angle do you want to hit?
I mean, any of them. You see what's coming through. You see people that are buying, people that just fell out of mortgage. They didn't think of what to get in line. I mean, why are they not buying? Why are they buying? You can give one of those too. What are you seeing right now? It's more current. I want that current feel.
So recently, let's say within the last couple months, we have had a lot of these people that are looking go under contract.
Yep.
And I have had multiple clients tell me, you know what, Ryan, I really, really wish we would have bought something earlier. I thought the prices were going to go down, but they haven't really. And eventually we've just said, look, let's just bite the bullet. Let's buy something. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. Everybody was predicting, like that YouTube channel. Oh, the crash is going to come. So you can get a $400,000 house for $200,000. Not going to happen.
Yeah.
Don't you think every investor in the country is going to do that if that happens? And they're going to pay way more than you are.
And they love.
They were basically trying to time the market.
Mm-hmm. And a golden rule. I think it might have been Warren Buffett who said it, right? Time in the markets will always outweigh timing the market. Nobody's going to time the market perfectly. You may get lucky once in a while. Majority of the time, you're going to lose. But time in the markets is going to outweigh timing the market.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you, I bought my first house in 06, and then the market crashed in 08. And I sold the house in 2014 and made $20,000.
What's that house worth now?
A little bit more.
Yeah, there you go. Right. So
a little bit more. I'm talking, I bought at the peak though, and renovated.
And it's still more today.
Still more today. But I mean, 8 years later, I got my money back from the worst crash we've seen in our lifetime. So, that's kind of my own personal lesson that I always think about. Every time I go into a house, I do have to plan for a little bit longer. I always kind of plan for 10 years. Doesn't mean, and I don't always have a B plan in case 3 years into it, somebody's like, hey, you got to move, or something happens. Can I have a B plan? And that's how I always make my decision so that I'm not way over leveraged. Right.
Well, and keep in mind as well, if values do go down, there's no stat across the board. Like if you look at 2008, like Adam, for example, like South Tampa, right? Mm-hmm. Very, very, very insulated. South Tampa prices during the crash went down 10%, 15%.
That's when I bought. Yep.
They're all different markets. South Tampa compared to Polk County is going to be totally different. Those are still in Tampa Bay.
Right. Yep. Got one last question here. Florida boy, I'd like to move. This was the same VA question. I'd like to move my mother-in-law or my mother in with me once I buy. Are there any communities that allow HUD vouchers? Yeah, there's definitely HUD areas that you can find. Another quick thought, and I don't know your budget. You can always reach out to the team and we can help you there. But there are some homes that are being built now with kind of like a built-in mother-in-law suite option. That might also be like maybe a secondary plan for you. So, all right, guys. So I want to talk about these predictions as we tie a bow on this video, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go first on this one just because I want to set the tone, and a lot of that is, from what stemmed the entire idea to have this video. This is from the conversation that Phil and I were having, and it all comes from where are we at now, and then where are we thinking that we're going. And a big part of that is that, like I told you about 45 days ago, we just had this influx of inventory. What did that do? Well, inventory and price a lot of times are, go in opposite directions. So our inventory just flooded the market. We almost doubled. And instantly it's like everybody pushed the brakes on. And you can see not that prices were dropping, but homes were sitting longer to get absorbed, right? We are still not in a full balanced market. We're still like leaning a little bit, probably 4 months of inventory leaning towards a seller's market. So what we're feeling on ground level is that sellers just need to be a little bit more patient and buyers have options. It's actually kind of a good place to be both, right? Because sellers' homes are still selling and their values aren't going down. At least we haven't seen it. And then buyers have options, so they can patiently shop and they can probably negotiate a little bit to skim off of that higher end price that sellers are still used to because they're still always trying to push the envelope. So that's what we're seeing right now. Now, where does that take us? Well, I don't know how fast interest rates are going to come down. And that's the biggest question mark, Brian, right? I think we could both agree, or at least I'm going to assume that interest rates will continue to, to come down little by little. How far they go, we don't know. And how fast they come down, we don't know. But as those start to come down, buyers are going to start getting more active. Buyers, like you said, 5 million buyers enter the market for every 1% drop. So we are seeing a lot of pent up demand still. All those people that were trying to guess, they're still waiting and they're pre-approved and ready to go. All those other people that are now saying, okay, interest rates are coming down. Then all those first-time buyers. I mean, we are having a ton of pent up demand that we're just not feeling in the market yet, right? It's pent up, but it's not active demand. They're not pulling the trigger. So what am I thinking there? I think that this inventory, as it starts to become, as it starts to snowball, we're going to go a little bit towards a balanced market where buyers are still having that option. They're out there negotiating. But as that interest rate starts to drop, you're going to see those buyers activated. You're going to see those buyers, that pent up demand saying, let's go now. And when that time comes, and by the way, as that inventory goes up, depending on how long it is, I think we could probably see a price drop. I wouldn't be shocked to see that price come down a little bit. Not 20%, not 10%. I think you could see it come down a hair, keeping in mind that every year you're going to see prices go up and down, right? We always look at the calendar year to say, what did it do versus last year? But you're going to see this up and down wave that's cyclical throughout the year as well. So I wouldn't be shocked to see the prices pull back a hair. A lot of times it's because buyers are making those lower options and then negotiating those price points. But then once those interest rates come down, those buyers are going to be activated. And I think that they're going to eat up that inventory pretty fast because we don't have this astronomical number of inventory. These are numbers that I think I showed you a reel last time we were on here, like 2018, 19. It was 11,000 active listings. It was the same number. Remember, almost identical to that chart. So yeah, quick version. I think that we could see a little bit of a dip or a plateau as far as prices going and values going for the short term. But as soon as those interest rates come down, whether that be December, like Brian, your clients are saying, or next year or whenever that is, I think a lot of that inventory is going to get eaten up, and we're going to be leaning back towards a seller's market. Probably not 22, 23, but we're going to lean back that way. And then I think we're going to have a really strong, healthy market, not only for sellers, but for buyers as well. Mm-hmm. That's in a nutshell. I don't have a perfect date, but there goes about 2 or 3 different predictions in one. Did I miss anything? And do you guys have a different outlook on it?
I think something to keep in mind, interest rates typically drop much more slowly than they rise. They rise much faster. Okay. Realistically, we probably continue to trade within a relative range. If we can get to the 5s, absolutely amazing. 4s, I'd be very surprised unless there's something that's going on that nobody expected. World War III.
4s would be a bailout.
Yeah, something big has to happen.
You see 4%, it's not good. There's something else going on.
4% happens, it's not good. The world, the economy, it's not good.
But yeah. I also, too, guys, I also believe, right? And Mark, you can definitely probably agree. You were selling, you had a lot of applications. You were doing a lot of loans 2019, 2020, 2021, right? All those influx of buyers are really like kind of holding on to that inventory right now, right? Because they didn't want to make that jump to 7%.
Yep.
As that number starts to inch back down again, right? That's going to just bring more inventory out. But also those people selling are also going to become buyers again. Mm-hmm. So you're going to go right back to that balanced market. So again,
they call that the golden handcuffs. That's the term they're using for it right now.
Yeah.
Exactly so what you described.
So if you are somebody that wants to buy a home and you see yourself there for 5 or 10 years and you're there for the long term, I think this is a perfect timing right now to really get serious, because I think there's an opportunity for you if you're going to be there a long time. Now, if I'm a young guy, maybe going out to buy that apartment or that condo, I got to kind of agree. I don't know. I think there's more leverage in, if you're going to have a family down the line, there's more leverage in being able to just move. So I don't know if I'm a buyer at that point. But if you're going to be there and you have good school system and your kids are going to be there for a while, I think there's an opportunity here for you.
Yeah, and it might be a window. It might be a smaller window than you really think.
Right.
So awesome. You guys have anything else to add to that at the moment?
No. Love having Brian on. I'll tell you that. You always make me. You always make it fun. Buddy.
He's got a little heart for you there.
Well, that's how we know each other. So we kind of have to.
Yep, exactly. Brian, though, thank you honestly, man, for jumping on. Folks, I mentioned at the beginning of the video, this guy is in Key West, taking time out of personal time to jump on this with us, because I thought it was important to share that message with you folks. And I really do appreciate that, Brian. Phil, as always, buddy, we're making it happen, and thank you for that street level point of view. Folks, if you're watching this, I hope that was helpful, and definitely jump onto my channel, because we're talking all about the neighborhoods, things to do in the lifestyle of Tampa here. And if you have any real estate needs, mortgage-wise, reach out to us. We'll hook you up with Brian. Otherwise, Phil can find that perfect home, that perfect neighborhood, and get you living the Tampa lifestyle. So, guys, thank you. And until that next video, we'll catch you later.